Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode on my channel. And today we're going to be talking about the top 5 reasons why introverts make great listeners. Let's get into it. So the first one we're going to get into is the reflective nature. And the reflective nature of an introvert makes us better listeners because what we're doing as the other person is talking, what we're doing is we are internalizing what they're saying. Talked about this on another videos, but in more detail, what's happening inside our minds is as the person is speaking, we're thinking about what they're saying, and we are trying to fully understand every part of the conversation, because what we want to do is then reflect on what type of scenario that person was in, right? What was their mindset? What were they doing that day? Were they with other people, right? And so we're trying to think about, why is this person saying what they're saying? What is the context of what they're saying, and why is it meaningful? And then in response, we can generate better questions to keep them talking, because we want to dive deeper into that conversation. So that's number one. Number two is that most introverts are very observant. And what I mean by that is introverts are great at picking up non-verbal cues. So reading body language of someone at the table, reading facial expressions. If you're around more than one person and you're trying to carry on a conversation, a lot of us are really in tune to what everybody else is doing when one person is talking, trying to see what they're doing with their eyes, what is their do they have like a neutral position of their face? Are they smiling? Is there a little bit more of a frown? Do they have their arms crossed? Right? Are they leaning back in their chair, which could mean like they're more open and have the ability to take in new information? Like I said, are their arms crossed? Are they being more defensive? And that's typically what this stance means. Are they leaning forward? Right? That could be a sign that they're really trying to listen, and that they may be engaged. Right? So these are all things that we pick up on, because what can happen is that if we are leading the conversation and we're picking up on these nonverbal cues, depending on what we're getting, if it's more negative or people are tuning out, that allows us to change the tone of the conversation, or ask a different type of question, or call on somebody else and have them answer a question. So number 3, most introverts are great at being empathetic. And what I mean by that is that we have an understanding of what other people are feeling. And it goes back to the first 2 that we just talked about. If we can reflect on what that other person is saying and really understand where they're coming from in their conversation and in their mental state, and also reading their nonverbal cues, that can allow us to put together a lot of pieces and really understand how that person may be feeling given what they're saying, right? So if they're talking about a great experience they just had on vacation, or right, they're going through some trouble at work, we have a better understanding most of the time of how that person is feeling and why they're feeling that way. And that will allow us, again, to maybe not just try to fix the problem, right, but really just let them talk, right? Because we are good at just letting them get things off their chest, because we can understand where they're coming from much easier. The 4th one on my list is another reason why introverts are great at being listeners, is that we focus less on ourselves by nature, right? In the other videos that I've talked about, we prefer to have, smaller group interactions. Being around a lot of people at once is heavily draining on introverts, right? And then we need time to go and recharge on our own. And it's because we don't want to necessarily be the center of attention. Yes, there's exceptions to the rules. And if you're at the center, and if you like being at the center of attention, that doesn't mean you're a bad listener. But a lot of the times is if with introverts having less focus on themselves and in not being worried about always being heard or needing to step up and maybe correct someone, um, what that allows us to do is have others be less defensive and more open to talking, right? Because even if they're wrong, right, you want to hear them through and you want to maybe understand why they feel that way. And then that could maybe lead to a different type of question to maybe, enlighten them a little bit, right? Without making them defensive. So not focusing on ourselves is another key difference there. All right. And then the last one, number 5. What makes introverts great listeners is that we have a preference for meaningful connections. So this goes back to that same foundational principle that we talked about in terms of being with limited audiences. One-on-one connections is where we excel, rather than being in a large group of people. Because being in a large group of people is harder to get a grasp on the conversation. It's harder to keep everyone engaged. You're worried about what else everyone is doing, and it takes a lot out of us as introverts to try to keep up. And the reason we prefer these meaningful connections with maybe one-on-one or maybe two-on-one is that what we can do is that when we're in these conversations with one other person and we're taking it into the other 4 pieces that we talked about, what that allows us to do is gain a better understanding of that individual, a deeper understanding of that individual, which could turn into a better relationship at the end. So something that lasts more than just a one-time meeting, right? Or maybe a meeting that you will have every 6 months to a year, if that's the business setting, or maybe it's like a conference or something, right? And then you run the risk of the person not even remembering you, right? And that's like worst case scenario for introverts. Like if we are devoting our time and our attention and our mental energy on having a conversation with you, we want that relationship to be meaningful. We want that person to remember us, and we want to have a better connection with that individual, because that means more to us, right? We're a lot of times, us as introverts are a lot more about the quality of our relationships and having a few key individuals in our lives, rather than having dozens or even hundreds of people that we want to call our friends, but at the end of the day they're probably just acquaintances. We as introverts would rather have a small number of quality friends that we have a deep relationship with, and because every time you get together you already have that connection established, and that's what makes it easier for us to talk and be a little bit more open inside of our small knit groups. So there you have it. It's the 5 top reasons why introverts are great listeners. And hopefully from the other videos that I posted so far, this is one of those videos that allows you to connect the dots to our other ones and maybe have that aha moment like, oh, okay, well, I think I fit a lot of these. Or maybe I hit 3 of the 5 or 4 of the 5. And hopefully now you have a little bit better understanding of what makes us as introverts great listeners. So I'll catch you on the next video. Thanks. Bye.